My name is David Richards. Everyone calls me Grom, and I am a ski patroller at heart at Alta, Utah, Alta Ski Resort, and I'm now the director of the Avalanche program for Alta Ski Area. Every rescuer, whether it be the layman on a casual ski tour or a professional rescuer, needs to know that there is a probability of a very unfortunate outcome. And it's gonna hurt. It's really gonna hurt. But with hard work, you'll never get over it, but you can get used to it. And you just gotta work on it. And eventually you'll want to go back into the mountains.
A lot of naiveness that happens, when you're in your education or you're in the backcountry or you're having these discussions with your friends. They're hard conversations to have, but we're not necessarily prepared for those things all the time. And I certainly didn't hear, anything about the word stress injury. I think stress injury I first heard 2 years ago.
We started using that nomenclature and stress injury. Really, I started using it as a clinician when I found that people were having to wait all the way till they got to this post-traumatic stress disorder goalpost with all the criteria to say that they weren't doing well. And to me as a clinician, it's like waiting till people are in the psychological ICU to start actually treating something when you really could have gotten to it in an outpatient setting and recognized it early and taken care of it.
I think if I had known what it was, if people had at least introduced me to the concept beforehand, I may have identified it soon enough that it wasn't allowed to become full-blown PTSD. If you can identify these as stress injuries and treat them early on, oftentimes you can cut off their progression to becoming a full-blown illness, which is what PTSD is. It's an illness, and that's fine. It's just like the cold, it's like the flu. People get it. One of the rules of the mountains, as far as I'm concerned, whether you're a professional rescuer or just a climber out at the crag for the day, if somebody needs help, you help them. And this is the exact same thing. And I think the outdoor community, if we're willing to talk about it, and I think we are, we'll help each other out.
We often, again, think about this injury type, if you've been psychologically impacted by something, unless it's PTSD, it's nothing, it's binary. You either have PTSD or you're fine, and that's actually not true at all. For many people, there are these early changing signs, and especially if the stress injury is associated with depletion before you actually see this exposure or whatever happens to you. I had something happened, or I saw something, or there was one accident too many, or a near miss, and then the day came and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I see this a lot in rescuers who've dedicated their entire careers to getting their certifications and getting out there and climbing that ladder, and then the day comes where it's like the tones go off, the page comes in, and they just say, I don't really want to do this today. And that's curiosity, like where did that go? So that loss of motivation, that loss of spark, for many it just becomes an edginess, and for many the gray starts to settle in, that things are just less fun than they used to be, and things are harder than they used to be. But that'd be an early change, and many people just assign that to personality and just keep pushing. So then as we see it progress up the sort of continuum of stress toward things like post-traumatic stress, then folks will start using numbing tools, right? Like need to come home from an adventure and drink the 2 and 3 and 4 beers. Or what I see in a lot of alpinists is that the numbing tools are more climbing, more skiing, more risks. And I especially see this after folks have lost partners or have been involved in things that are very difficult. There's the version where people stop going out and don't want to do it anymore, sell their skis the next year and move on to mountain biking. But there's also the version where folks use that to stop feeling or to feel something finally, and they'll push harder and go farther by themselves. They'll ski more and more like risky angles, and they'll just keep pushing. And the way that I think we can sometimes recognize that is if you try and stop them or say, hey, let's go ski something chill today, or let's go do something less, and they're like, get out of my way. That's often a sign like, I can't feel this right now, I have to go do that.
Yeah, I think all of this is really important, as important as the rescue and the digging pits and all of this, is to understand that, especially in Colorado where avalanches happen all the time. So yeah, it's part of the training.
People's skill level, their sport level, whether it's skier, snowmobiler, but their skill level is way up high. But their knowledge is down real low. So there's this big gap between the skills and the knowledge. And as educators, what we try to do is help narrow that gap and bring them together so people can make better decisions. And it's not just about the terrain, weather, and snowpack, but it's the human factors. And it's the human factors that go into making good decisions or poor decisions, so we can recognize those. But it's also living with the consequences of what happens afterwards. And hopefully those consequences are wonderful things that happen. But with avalanches, sometimes bad things happen to good people. And by being able to talk now about stress injuries and telling people about them, they'll be better prepared when something goes wrong. And as a rescuer, it's a nice thing for me to know that we can help people, not just get off the mountain, but down the road and get back to their sport.